community structure above Embrey Dam, it began to revert to a more natural, community, because the fish that were sort of denied access to their historical range now had that access. Things like yellow perch, white perch. Those are native fish that were never seen above the old Embrey site before the dam came down. But of course, now that they're migrating up, now the fish that we were the headline fish, the fish that we were really trying to sell, pulling Embrey Dam down for, primarily were this group of anadromous clupeids, which is the shad and herring, and they all have the same genus called Alosa, A-L-O-S-A. So a lot of times you hear people talk about Alosa or Alosines, and those are so important because they're the transition. Well, they're important because recreational fishermen love to catch them in the spring. They go down and shad fish on the herring dippers, and people like to eat saltfish and roe and all that. It's important for that, but they're also important as a component in the food chain because they're planktivores, and they're converting the primary productivity of the river to a fish biomass, a very productive and oily little nugget for a fish like striped bass and bluefish and even tuna offshore to eat. Since these things spend a lot of time in the ocean, they're an extremely important link in the ecosystem. And so for all these reasons, there's such a high demand and want to see these fish return to their historical levels. And so that was one of the big driving forces in pulling that dam down. Unfortunately, out of those 4 Alosa species, we've not really seen the sort of population growth we'd hoped to see. And we even stocked, especially American shad, after the dam came down, millions of American shad were stocked way upstream in an effort to seed that area because it was thought that, these fish needed to imprint far above where Embrey was, just so they'd have that drive, that innate drive to push past the old dam site to spawn in the upstream reaches. And for whatever reason, we think now more and more it's what is called offshore intercept fishery, where these huge factory boats are setting these massive seines around groups of fish, and not necessarily targeting, American shad from Virginia waters or blueback herring or alewives, but these fish are being caught incidentally with other fish. They're a subject of these big commercial boats in international waters. And we think that that's probably what's happened to a lot of our fish. And unfortunately, we've seen, American shad a mile below Kelly's Ford, which is fantastic. And that, that was just for people like us in the fisheries world, that was major, huge news. And that's been happening for years. But it's just not the numbers of fish, that we were hoping to see. And so we would just keep hoping that maybe over time the stocks will begin to rebuild. But it hasn't happened yet. So, there's some good things and some bad things that are happening on the river. I won't say bad things, some good things and just not as good things that are happening on the river in terms of the new community sort of sorting itself out.
It's so interesting. As much as you know and as much as you can do, still there's just the unknown of nature that you're still guessing.
Yeah, it's befuddling sometimes.
Yeah.
Humbling.